An Aurora, Colorado police officer showed up 2 hours after a call for a welfare check for a trespassing complaint, shot the suspect within 3 minutes, and the chief of police stood in front of a bunch of news cameras and said he did everything he possibly could do to de escalate the situation, but ultimately had no choice but to use deadly force. Do you guys believe that? Let's talk about it. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. So the date is May 12th, 2025. You have a off-site parking lot that is utilized, it's owned privately, and it's in Aurora, but it's utilized to move people who park their vehicles there and shuttle them to the Denver International Airport. So it's not within the jurisdiction of the Denver Airport Police Department. It's not within Denver city limits. It's actually Aurora, Colorado. So what you have is a situation where there's a guy who's sort of wandering around this parking lot. He's apparently having some sort of mental health issue or on some illicit substance. And the people who work at the location bring him inside, give him some water, try to figure out what's going on with him. They call the police at 2:57 p.m. on May 12th. The police don't show up until 5:27, some 2.5 hours later. And by 5:30, this guy is laying in the field dying of 2 gunshot wounds. So we're going to walk through the critical incident briefing and we're going to compare some of the stuff that's said by the chief of police here to what actually happened. And then we'll let you guys make your own determination as to what's going on in this case.
Hey, thank you very much for being here. I truly want to thank the presence of the media because without question, the media is the community in a big part. So again, thank you all for being part of this discussion. I'm going to start this real quick. First off with just acknowledging that without question, this is a tragic situation for everybody involved. It's tragic for the suspect. It's tragic for the suspect's family. It is tragic for the officer. It is tragic for the entire community. And that is one thing that without question that as we start this conversation, I want to make sure that everyone's aware that the Aurora Police Department is 100% committed to transparency. We're committed to getting all the information that we can get out, and we're making sure that we answer any questions for you and for the community as a whole. What you're going to see is I'm going to give a breakdown of an actual timeline of the incident, when it occurred, how it occurred, and when it occurred. This incident actually started on May the 12th, 2025. And I have a timeline here that we're going to go ahead and throw up here in a second, and I hope this gives you some help as far as understanding what occurred and when. I'm going to go through each of the events, and then again, you please identify points of interest to you, but without question, this event does not have one particular high point or low point. This event was something where a community member called on the Aurora Police Department to come in to respond and solve a situation that they could not solve. It continued to evolve as the time frame will show, and the complexity of that continued to get much more dynamic as the officers arrived on scene.
As most situations do tend to get more dynamic as officers arrive on scene, because there's no situation, regardless of where it starts in the complexity or dynamic, that the police don't make worse when they get there. Let's continue.
So what we had initially, that at 2:58, a call came out involving a trespass suspect. This trespass suspect was located up at the parking spot up in northern Aurora. The person reporting called and said that basically we had an individual who appeared to be under the influence of drugs. But didn't appear to have any injuries and was basically walking around the location. Indicated that also the individual did not seem to be armed at the time. As time continued to unfold, right around 3:14 to 4:59, our reporting person called back again, and he stated that the male was walking around. He still seemed somewhat passive, but he was starting to come in and out of the location. He was starting to make requests. He was starting to make contact, starting to have a little bit more irritability in his behavior and how he acted.
Notice how the chief glossed over that detail. 2:58, the call comes in. The situation escalates. The chief goes on this ramble about, how the dynamics changed, the blah, 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 horse shit. Then he says from 3:14 to 4:59, the situation changed, and then he just glosses right over it, as if we're all supposed to not realize that they called for help at 2:58 and continued to call. That's what he's telling you. They continued to have to call over and over and over and over and over again from 3:14 to 4:59. Okay, so don't be fooled. He's telling you what to see here, but pay attention for yourself and don't be fooled by the silliness.
Right around 4:25, our person reporting called back and said that now this individual who was in this lot, and PR is actually the manager of that location. And so as the calls continued to come into communications, he then stated that now it appears that this individual is walking around and he's trying to open doors and do things again to the vehicles that were parked there. At 4:59, again a few moments later, the PR calls back again, and he states that the male is now trying to fight them, and he is also trying to fight individuals in the parking spot themselves.
Right, so he's jumped in the middle of this timeline again. He told you first 2:58, then he told you from 3:14 to 4:59. Now he's telling you at 4:25, the guy calls back and says, okay, something's changed, right? He's going to jump immediately from 4:25 to 4:59, okay? Another 35 minutes that passed.
So this call gets upgraded due to the threat, which is increased over a period of time. And at 5:18 p.m., our officers get dispatched to the location. And when I use the term officer, I mean one officer got dispatched.
At 5:18, they get dispatched, okay? Now, again, we've got it all now, right? 2:58, hey, this guy's in our lobby. We're giving him water. You're going to hear the 911 call. We're giving him water. We're trying to help him. So he's not on notice that he's not welcome there, right? They're giving him water. They're trying to make him feel welcome. They've also got him enclosed in a room where the police or medical attention could be, helpful at this point, right? This is 2:57, 2:58. They start calling again at 3:14. Shit's changed. 4:25, more shit's changed. 4:59, now he's trying to fight us. They still don't get somebody there for 20 more minutes. And then when they send somebody, it's one police officer.
At 5:28, our officers go on scene. They make contact with the individual almost immediately. They see an individual that appears to be having some type of issues. He is in the parking lot area. He is walking pretty much aimlessly. He is not listening to verbal requests. He is not adhering to the officer's directions to try to determine out why he's there, who he's there with, is he there with anybody else, what's the situation, why exactly were the officers called. All of that started to get unfold as this went through. During that period of 5:28 to about 5:29, as you're going to see in the video here very quickly, you're going to see the officer go through a number of different things to try to deal with this suspect. And again, I think it's really important when you look at this to keep many things in your mind and many things in your thoughts. Our officer tried every aspect of de-escalation possible.
Okay, this is really important what he just did. He just told you, as the public watching this video, how you were supposed to feel about it. I think it's really important as you watch this that you keep certain things in your mind. And then he tells you what he wants to be in your mind. Our officer did everything. He tried everything he knows to do to try to de-escalate this. Well, let's look and see whether that matches up with what we see on the video.
But those involve de-escalation both in verbalization. They involve de-escalation with less lethal tools, which included a baton, a taser. Our officer was ultimately tackled, pushed down to the ground, where he had to try to control this individual who was extremely violent, while at the same time trying to control his own weapon, which you can tell from the video. It appears that the suspect is attempting to get a remove from our officer. So again, that is what took place in that very brief period of time. And actually one point, and again, you're going to see this in the video, and I'm very open about all of this video. At the conclusion of this event, the entire full-length video is going to be released so that not only the media can have it, but anybody can have it in our portal that basically demonstrates what occurred during this particular event. But as I mentioned, he went through all the de-escalation tools, all the de-escalation different aspects related to law enforcement intervention. At that period, the person who reported this incident, the manager of that parking spot, actually called and said that, hey, your officer definitely needs some help. And that is very, very complex when you think of an officer being at such a point where the community member has to call and make sure that communications and other officers are aware that an officer is basically being overtaken to the point of almost submission.
So he's already laid it out for you guys. This is how you're supposed to feel about it. These are the things he needs you to keep in mind so that you will already have a safe space for his police officer in your mind. All right? But he's just told you that this guy was no deadly threat whatsoever from 2:57 when he wasn't important enough to respond to, all the way up until 5:18 when he finally became important enough to respond to. They still took 20 minutes from 5:18 to get there. The police officer gets there, and this suspect is fatally wounded within 3 minutes of the police officer arriving on scene. Wasn't a problem. He was fine for 2.5 hours. Now he's dead 3 minutes after the police arrive.
Hello, my name is Agent Matthew Longshore, and I'm a Public Information Officer for the Aurora Police Department. This critical incident briefing will provide you with information about an officer-involved shooting that occurred on Monday, May 12, 2025 in the city of Aurora. What you're about to see may be disturbing and difficult to watch. Strong language will be used. Viewer discretion is advised. At 2:58 p.m. Monday, May 12, 2025, Aurora 911 receives a call about a person trespassing at an off-site airport parking lot located in the 19900 block of East 56th Avenue. The caller notes the suspect is not wearing any shoes and appears to be under the influence of drugs. The caller also notes the suspect does not appear to be injured, is not in possession of any weapons, and is not threatening violence. Due to other higher priority calls for service, the call is placed in the pending queue. Between 3:14 and 4:59 p.m., Aurora 911 receives additional calls from employees of the business. Here's a recording of those 911 calls.
Tell me exactly what happened.
So we have a guy that we've given a couple waters, and he's just sitting in the office, but he seems like he's off some type of drug or something, and there's another lady in there that's working, and she's feeling uncomfortable.
So keep in mind, this caller said he seems like he's off some type of drug, not he's on some type of drug. There's a difference. She's not making the claim that he's under the influence of some narcotic and acting crazy. She's making the claim that he may be off his medication. That is the first clue. Now, keep in mind, Aurora Police Department has a 4-year veteran of this police department, which means that he has had crisis intervention training. That is training that is a 40-hour class that teaches police officers how to deal with people in mental health crisis, okay? That's put on by NAMI. That's the National Alliance of Mental Illness. I was one of the first officers in my state to be certified to do this. It teaches you what sort of behaviors to look for with people who are off their medication or experiencing some mental health crisis, right? So the first clue is that this caller, 2.5 hours before this, has told them he seems like he's off his medication. Not he's high on something, he's off his medication. Let's continue.
Do you think he needs an ambulance or just somebody to come out and check on him?
Just somebody to come and check on him. I don't think he needs an ambulance.
Trying to get him to get off my lot. He's not talking. He's walking in and out of my office, trying to unlock people's car doors. I've placed a call to you guys already about a gentleman on my lot. He's trying to fight myself and a couple of my employees. They told me to call if anything changes with this gentleman.
Okay, man, on the office, okay, so he's trying to fight with you now?
He's trying to fight me and my employees, a couple of my other employees.
What's going on?
199. The cop that you guys sent over to take care of the gentleman on my lot, he is in trouble. He's wrestling with the police.
What do you mean, the cop's in trouble?
The cop is in trouble. Yes, the cop is in trouble.
Okay. What's happening with him?
He came over here to talk to him, and then he something yelling and screaming, and he got tackled by the gentleman that I sent for you guys to come look at.
Okay. The cop has a gun on the guy, or the guy has a hand?
The cop just shot him.
And then just before we get to the actual thing, I hate dispatchers so much. If you're a dispatcher and you're not an idiot, I'm sorry, please, then I'm not talking to you. But this is stupid. If your caller, after having called you guys for over 2 hours, is telling you the cop that you sent out here is in trouble, well, what's going on with him? What's happening? Are they kicking his ass? How exactly is he in trouble? Is he still breathing? Has anybody been killed yet? What do you mean he's in trouble? What's going on? Dispatchers, just shut up and report the information. Stop acting like you're fucking Lieutenant Joe Kenda. You're not. Just report the information.
I'll be making contact with this individual.
Cops walking up. Here we go. That'd be 1727. Says he's making contact with the individual. I want to draw your attention to a couple things here. Should have been clues for this police officer.
Where are your shoes at?
Hey man, what's going on today? 12 seconds later, where are your shoes at? This is Aurora, Colorado. On this date, the temperature was about 80 degrees. Rule of thumb, general, asphalt, after heating up all day long, 40 to 60 degrees higher. This guy is walking on a hot asphalt that is 120 to 135 or 40 degrees with no shoes, okay? There's clearly something going on. That should be the first clue right there. He's non-responsive. They've been calling about him for 2 hours. He has no shoes on. He's walking on 120 to 140 degree asphalt.
Can you talk to me? Can you tell me what's wrong? What's going on today? Huh? Well, I don't know. Why are you back in this gate?
Okay, so it sounds like he's saying something about, I don't know how to get out of this gate. And the officer's like, well, I don't know. Why are you back in this gate?
Why don't you have any shoes on?
Notes for a second time. Why don't you have any shoes on? All right, now the guy's going to hover over here by this little security gate. And what's the officer do? Remember, the chief said he did everything he possibly could to de-escalate this situation. Well, up to this point, fine. But let's see what happens.
Don't be messing with that. Don't be messing with that. Quit. Stop messing with that.
Okay, less than 10 seconds. Don't be messing with that. Don't be messing with that. Quit. Stop messing with that. He's not vandalizing the thing. He's just touching it. Why are you picking this battle? This guy is standing on 120 degree minimum asphalt with no shoes. He's been reported 2.5 hours ago to be off medication and clearly escalating behavior. You did everything pursuant to your crisis intervention training that was mandated since you're a 4-year veteran to keep this situation de-escalated, and you've started an arbitrary escalation by picking some battle that doesn't matter with this guy. Right, and you're the only officer here who could make it out in 2.5 hours.
Do you know how to listen to what I'm telling you to do? Huh?
Oh, then we're going to walk around in front of him, look at him dead in the eye, and say something smart-ass to further de-escalate. What's wrong with you? Are you stupid? Do you know how to listen to what I'm telling you to do? What do you guys expect to happen if this is your approach?
Okay, you need to leave.
1728. Now, I want to be clear about this. This officer is in trouble. I think this is a bad shooting. No sense in hiding the ball. I think this was a bad shooting. I think this was excessive force. But this is the first time that he's actually issued a lawful order. Remember, he's responded to a trespassing complaint. You need to leave. And that's where this situation turns.
Back off of me. Choose well, start me emergency cover. Get back! I'm gonna shoot you, dude.
Okay. The officer did everything he possibly could to de-escalate this situation. Get that. Now, look, this is probably very scary. This guy looks like he's out of his mind. He seems to be laughing, almost like he's trying to grab or tickle or poke the officer. Like, this is very chilling. I'm not saying that this officer should not have been alarmed at his behavior. I'm also not saying that he is not subject to arrest at this point, because the second that he turns and starts moving towards the officer, grabbing at him and that, whatever, that's assault. He can be arrested. There's probable cause right there to make an arrest. That's not really the point. The point is, he hasn't done anything to hurt the police officer yet. And this police officer has said, dude, I'm going to shoot you if you don't stop. So he's already got an escalated mindset. He's not done everything he possibly could do to keep this situation from escalating. He has already threatened deadly force, and this guy has not assaulted him in any way that would lead him to believe that he's subject to serious bodily injury or death.
Get back.
Okay, now the officer has pulled out a collapsible baton. Now, these are generally ASP brand. They generally range from 16 to 26 inches in length once they're deployed. But the important thing to know, if you've never encountered one or never dealt with one, is that they are friction locked. You thrust down on the downstroke, and that causes the baton to completely extend, and it locks in place with friction. There is no closing the baton if it's actually locked. Once it's locked out with friction, the only way to close that baton, sometimes it doesn't lock out enough and you can just tap it on the ground and it'll collapse. But the way that he locked this out, and he's already struck the guy twice, that would be further locking the baton out. Okay, so the baton is fully deployed. This officer should never have gone to this baton. The first thing that he should have gone to is the taser in this particular situation, because the baton, once it's out, you're going to see he don't know what to do with it, because the only way to get it closed and put it back in its holster once it's extended is to drop down to your knee and use your body weight combined with gravity to collapse that baton back into the form that it'll fit in your holster. Okay, so now this baton is out and it's up for grabs by anybody because of the decision that this police officer made. So it was a tactically poor decision to pull this baton and strike him with it, because it clearly had no effect, and now he doesn't know what to do with it. We're going to watch him leave the concrete where he could collapse it back and put it in his holster, and back up into the grass where he's not going to be able to do anything with it except tuck it in his holster, and now he's got a 16 to 26 inch basically bat sticking down his leg or in his back or whatever that he's got to contend with now, that's now subject to the suspect grabbing a hold of it and using it against him. So he creates distance here. He's moved back into the grass. He can't collapse it now. He's got to tuck it away, and he goes to the taser. Well, as soon as he goes to the taser, this person realizes what he's doing, and he starts dancing. And so he fires 2 shots in rapid succession that don't meet their mark, and now he's out of taser. I assume that he doesn't have any more taser cartridges. I don't know what model they use, but he immediately puts the taser up because I assume that he's out of cartridges. Okay. I want you to keep something in mind. This police chief has made the statement that this guy tried to grab his weapon. But if you look at the body cam, the way it looks to me is that this officer is down either face down or on his right side. His weapon is drawn later from his right side. So if he's on his right side, he can't be subject to losing his weapon because his body is laying on the weapon. So he can't get access to it, but neither can the suspect. If he's down face on the ground, then sure, it's possible that the guy grabbed his weapon. We don't have any way of knowing because all we have is this point of view. And he does seem to rotate from initially face down to over on the right-hand side, and then ultimately he gets up in a few seconds.
Get off me, man. What are you doing? Come on. You're not in trouble. What? You're not in trouble.
This is the first time in this whole encounter that this police officer has tried to de-escalate. Despite what the police chief told you and how to feel about it, now that he's getting his butt kicked, and now that he's in bad trouble with this guy that he doesn't know how to handle, that the taser and the baton have both failed because of the way that he chose to use them, he's in trouble. And this is the first time during this whole interaction that he's taken a de-escalated approach. So now he's trying to back off an emergency situation because he knows that he's in trouble. And now, oh, you're not in trouble. Come on, man, get off of me. You're not in trouble. This is the wrong time for this to be your first attempt at de-escalation.
You're not in trouble, man. Step it up, step it up.
So he's asking for help.
Hey, man, help me!
He's screaming for help. He appears to be down on his right side, but again, it's hard to tell because of the body cam. And now he's on his back, and he's trying to control this guy's arm. It's hard to tell. It doesn't look like the guy's trying to hit him. It's hard to tell whether he's just trying to gain control. But he's up now. He's back to his feet. Now watch this.
Huh?
Get back. Now he draws his weapon. He draws it from the right side. Okay, so I don't have any way of knowing whether this guy was trying to grab his gun while he was on top of it. No way to know. Maybe he was. But it looks to me, 20 feet or so, he's drawn his weapon. And he said to this guy, get back. And he's created distance. This is exactly what he should have done. He has no other tools. He clearly can't fight. The guy's getting the best of him. He has no other tools. So, well, he may have pepper spray. I'm not sure if they have it or not. But he has, for what I can see, no other tools. But he has escalated this up into a deadly force. He's already threatened to shoot the guy once. Now, this guy's doing nothing at this point, right? I'm not saying he was assaulted. Okay, I'm not saying he wasn't assaulted. I'm not saying that he wasn't in danger. Had he turned over and shot this guy or accessed his weapon and shot this guy while the guy was on top of him, this would be a shooting that nobody would say anything about. Oh, this was, what else was he going to do? Yeah, he made bad decisions or whatever, but, the guy was on top of him. He was reaching for his weapon. Two people can keep a secret if one of them's dead, and all we have is this body cam, and we have no idea what was happening that we couldn't see. So if he shoots this guy, 15 seconds ago, nobody's ever going to say a word about it. But this guy is 20 feet away from him.
Get on the ground. I'm going to shoot you if you do not get on the ground.
He's now made his second threat. I'm going to shoot you if you don't get on the ground. What he should be doing right now is staying constantly on the radio saying, hey, this guy has done whatever. I can't get him under control. I need help now. Now. He's not doing that. He's not backing out anymore. He's created this distance, and that's it.
Get on the ground.
So now this suspect is leaned over. It looks like he's picking up stuff out of the ground, playing with the grass, whatever. He's not any threat whatsoever at this point. All the police officer has to do at this point is to back out and wait for backup, and he's not going to do that. He's going to close the distance again, re-engage.
Stop!
And now he's walking towards him.
Get back! I'm going to shoot you, dude!
So he's made his third threat to shoot him. Now, I want to draw your attention to something, and I'm not sure exactly the distance, but let's just watch something real quick.
Back up!
All right, look on the left-hand side. You see that these are commercial-grade fences. It looks to me like there's at least 2 fence panels between the two of them. And I'm guessing that those fence panels are a minimum of 8 feet. They could be 10 or 12 feet, but I'm guessing they're a minimum of 8 feet. So I believe there's 15 to 20 feet between the two of them right now. And again, you have to keep in mind, this guy was bent over at the ground, not doing anything after this interaction before this officer with gun drawn re-engaged before backup gets there.
Get down! 212 shots fired.
And there you have it. You can see at least 2 black fence posts on the left-hand side between the two of them. I believe we're looking at 15 to 20 feet, and he shoots this guy. The guy is not rushing him. He's walking towards him, but they're moving at the same pace. Again, if this guy's in his grill, within arm's reach, even within 10 feet, maybe, the shooting is a different story. But he's 15 to 20 feet away, and he didn't try to wait for his backup. He escalated this into a deadly force situation because of his incompetence, his inability to handle himself physically, and his inability to recognize his crisis intervention training and the clues that existed in the call beforehand. So we've got a serious problem here. Now that we've seen what the chief told you to feel, okay, and we've discovered that that's complete bullshit and doesn't line up with what actually happened in the video, let's move on and take a look at some of the things in the law that could be a problem for Aurora, Colorado in this case. So it's my opinion that at the time of the actual shooting, you definitely have an excessive force, unauthorized use of deadly force, because I do not believe that the police officer at the time of the shooting had a reasonable belief, or that an objectively reasonable police officer would expect that he was in danger of serious bodily injury or death at the time of the shooting. Again, a little bit before, and maybe something changed afterwards, different, but at the time of the shooting, I think this is a bad shoot. So first of all, you got a 1983 claim, in my opinion, for excessive force under Graham versus Connor for unreasonable use of force. That's my opinion on that. The other issue they have is that they have a Monell claim problem because of training and not implementing proper crisis intervention tools. He's 15 to 20 feet away, probably. He's unarmed. He hasn't tried to pick up any of the law enforcement tools that have been laying on the ground, if they are on the ground. We don't even know whether he reholstered the taser. He hasn't tried to pick up the baton. He's playing in the grass, basically, acting like a person who's off their meds or on some sort of substance. He's walking slowly at the same pace that the officer is retreating. He's not threatening, and he's not charging. Now, sure, the officer can, reflect back on what just happened, but I think he needs to be closer in order for this to be a good shooting. So you've got a Monell municipal liability problem here. I would argue that they failed to ensure that he understood crisis intervention training, for one, or failed to train him, because their policy says everybody has to have it. They may have had crisis response team or some other thing like that that they should have deployed that they didn't deploy over the 2.5 hours in order to try to address this guy's issues, especially when they have a documented history of these calls coming in. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, the Supreme Court has said that they don't have a duty. The thing is, that's true under the 1983, but we've got state law issues that come into play. And it's a situation where you could have a suit brought into federal court, and then you ask for supplemental jurisdiction under state law in order for the court to review state law claims. For one, you have a negligent performance of a voluntarily undertaken duty is one of the issues that you might have in state law. Aurora PD took the call. They undertook the duty to respond. They did that voluntarily. They delayed it for 2+ hours. When they finally did intervene, they did it incompetently, and they caused harm that could have been avoided had they responded in a timely fashion. And of course, in all of their transparency, they completely glossed over the amount of time. Like, they didn't focus on that at all. They want you to feel a certain way about this police officer. They didn't say anything about how long it took them to get there. Negligent hiring, retention, supervision, and training. Even if there's no constitutional duty to protect, the city has a duty to hire and train officers who won't escalate to deadly force unnecessarily. Immediately picking a battle that doesn't matter with a guy that you should have recognized should have been experiencing some severe pain with what was going on his feet. And you immediately start picking this battle with him about this security gate. Then you pull your baton out, you threaten to shoot him. You've already demonstrated that you have an escalated mindset. You miss him twice with the taser, and then you make it obvious that you don't know how to do anything on the ground at all in order to be able to hold this guy off. The only reason that this police officer got up is because the guy got up off of him and then went away voluntarily. That also killed the officer's ability to use deadly force in that situation, in my opinion. So the police officer, despite what the chief told you, used zero de-escalation tactics here. But based on the fact that the chief's already reviewed this and has come out in support of his officer, you're not going to see anything that looks like a policy violation on this particular case. And then you have some circuits that recognize a state-created danger theory, and Colorado is one of those states that recognizes it. It's not recognized by the Supreme Court, but federal circuit courts and Colorado district courts do recognize 1983 claims where the government affirmatively creates or exacerbates the danger to a citizen. And I don't know that you could make an argument that that isn't what happened here. This guy was fine. For 2.5 hours, he was being handled much better by the people who were calling and asking the police for help. And then the police get there and the guy's dead within 3 minutes. How can you make the argument that they didn't make this worse, that they didn't exacerbate the situation by not handling it properly? Then obviously the harm was foreseeable. They should have known that handling it improperly, that's part of that crisis intervention training, right? The whole point of crisis intervention training is to say, look, if you don't handle these people the right way, this can become a deadly game. That's the whole point of crisis intervention training. It's very fascinating information, and it's very helpful if you actually buy into the system. But police officers, they get this idea that that's too much social work for them. They don't really care about that kind of thing. So they get this idea that they're being babysat by mental health people, and they don't like that. They like to show up and be the military and be bullies. They're not really interested in any aspect of this that looks like social work. So many police officers that I've encountered do not buy into the crisis intervention thing at all. But the whole idea that you're implementing and making it a policy requirement for all sworn members to be crisis intervention trained means that you know that it's foreseeable that if you deal with a person who has a mental health issue in the wrong way, that it's foreseeable that it could escalate to a deadly force situation. So you've already basically mailed it in that the harm is foreseeable. That's one of the essential elements of proving the state-created danger theory. So anyway, that is my opinion on what I think the claims will be. That's my opinion on why we're here. I think this is a situation where the chief of police came out and wanted to paint this as a pretty picture. But if you compare, as usual, what they say to what actually happened, it doesn't match. And in closing, this is one of those situations where nothing's going to happen to this guy. I don't think there's any chance that he gets charged criminally. It would be a very big surprise to me because of the assault that happened right before the shooting. But from a 1983 perspective, I think this is a case where this was going to be found to be an excessive force. But you might have some liability to be able to be attached for either the failure to implement the crisis intervention training properly or the failure to respond in a timely fashion, to send any medical personnel. I mean, this thing was a shit sandwich from the beginning. And so the idea that the police chief would come out and tout transparency and act like all of this stuff is going to be on the up and up, and we've partnered with these people to properly investigate this, and then instead of letting you let your lying eyes tell you what you see, to tell you pre-video what you're going to experience here, and to try to put it in your mind, to try to manipulate you and gaslight you into thinking that you're going to watch a justified shooting before you ever roll the tape. That's typical of police chief leadership in this day and age, as I'd like to say. Anyway, I don't know what you guys think about this. This looks like a bad shoot to me, but let me know what you think in the comments. I'll probably, based on what you say in the comments, I'll probably write a companion blog over on Substack. I'll post it a couple days later. I'd like to invite you over there to check out Substack. It's absolutely free. You can join on a paid tier if you want to, but that's only for people who want to support the channel monetarily. I don't put anything up that I put a paywall in front of. If you're on my Substack, you'll get it free. I'm also getting ready to start some different video stuff that I wouldn't put on YouTube, because maybe a large portion of my audience, as my audience has grown, a lot of people just aren't interested in certain things that I might post. I'll probably be posting different type stuff, vlogs, behind the scenes stuff over on Substack. So if you're interested in that sort of a picture of the Southern Draw Law community, head over to Substack, check us out. If you don't want to support on Substack, but you do want to support monetarily, I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel, leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.